This is Secret America with your hosts, Jack Danger and James Clary.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jack Danger along with James Clary, and this is our first ever live stream episode. So we're hoping it'll go really well. So just bear with us, if anything happens. But we're hoping for a smooth transition from recording into live, and the episode will also be put out for anybody that wants to watch it. After this live stream, it'll also be put out on all the usual platforms. James,
you know what, Jack? Most people, they probably figure this out. We pretty much do it live every week anyway. We don't post-edit our episodes. Maybe you might take out something like when Bob the cat jumps up and knocks my computer off the table. But other than that, we pretty much do it live anyway, right?
You're right. It is live. We literally, as soon as it ends, we go ahead and post it. So why don't we go ahead and get started?
I just want to make one other point too, just for our guests to know, and then I'll let you get going. We don't really prepare for this. Jack and I do not talk beforehand. We don't have a list of topics. This is off the cuff. Now, I don't know whether that's good or bad, but it seems to be working so far. But I wanted to make that point.
Yeah, it's true. We don't discuss it beforehand. We have our own personal research and knowledge that we do, and believe it or not, that's what I think makes it more spontaneous and exciting. Like I'm going to start a topic now. James has no idea what I'm going to say or what topic I'm going to start. But since we both do a lot of research, we both know, at least a little bit about every topic. And I want to start with the tariffs. We saw how everybody was all over Trump with these tariffs. But on a little ancillary benefit, I want to say real quick, just to make everybody happy, you want to know the best part about these tariffs so far? The best part is that Nancy Pelosi has lost millions of dollars because of Donald Trump's rhetoric. First, he started the tariffs, which dropped the stock market. And then he paused the tariffs, which shot it back up. And apparently she has lost millions of dollars. So that is a huge plus for anybody listening to this, because we know how much insider trading she's done. So this is some outsider trading for her ass, James. And I love it. So, that along with the fact that now China even wants to come to the table. They're saying that, America needs to drop these reciprocal tariffs. And I think China is actually willing to do some things here along with every other country. And that's why the stock market had the biggest gain for one day in U.S. history. The Dow Jones gained over 2,600 points. Everything seems to be turning up a W for Donald Trump. And it's a great day. It's a great year. It's just great to be an American all around. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I think it's great. And, that's a perfect segue. Like I said, we don't talk about what issues we're going to discuss. I had no idea Jack was going to bring up tariff. But, Jack, what I did in the last several days is really did a deep dive on U.S.-China relations. And we do a bit called Conspiracy Corner. And I'm going to roll this in. If you don't mind, let me have the floor for a few minutes.
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's really important that our audience understand what's going on and what has gone on historically with China. Because, look, I think you would agree, Jack, that Trump's goal in this whole thing is to finally take on China. And every other leader past, since going back to Richard Nixon, who first opened relations with China by visiting there in 1972, no one has stood up to him. And I just want to give the audience a quick overview of how China screws us. Everyone thinks it's about tariffs. It's not about tariffs. One of the main things they use is called VIE, which is variable interest entities. So look, Chinese law prevents foreign ownership of key industries. Now, China can come here, Jack, and buy damn near anything, including farmland next to military bases. On the other hand, yes, U.S. companies cannot go into China and buy industries. So Chinese firms, what they'll do too to get into the American stock market, because there's certain industries that they're not allowed to be in, they'll go to the Cayman Islands or some other place. They'll set up a corporation there. Then they'll buy shares of a U.S. business under this new corporation's name. In essence, it's owned by the CCP. These are called the shadow shares. So one of the other things they do is that when the U.S. demands audit transparency, Chinese firms threatened delisting, which means taking them off the stock market. They do this elsewhere, like in Hong Kong. So your retirement account is funding the CCP. You need to know that. Wall Street has prioritized profits over patriotism. That's why you see, look, why would the market drop like it did the first day Trump announced tariffs if this was such a good thing? It's because Wall Street's completely invested in China. Now, just let me wrap this up. The Lao Baixing, which in Chinese and Mandarin means the common people, the Lao Baixing in China represent the U.S. workers. You know how Trump has brought in the blue-collar workers to the Republican Party for the first time in 60 years? Well, the Lao Baixing, they have no freedom of speech. They're heavily censored. They're under this social credit system. In China, the party, the CCP, watches over your every move. But in U.S., it's the same thing. It's just Google and BlackRock do it. The American worker was sold out for profit, and Lao Baixing were bought for production, and both serve the same global machine. And Trump has the cojones to finally stand up to China, and I applaud him.
Well, that's an amazing conspiracy corner, because I did not know a lot of those things, and it's just incredible how much China has been able to infiltrate America, buying up the farmland, manipulating the stock market, even going so far as to buy land that's near our military bases to be able to spy on us. And yet there's nothing ever reciprocal done to China. And that's what makes Donald Trump such a great president, is he's doing it to absolutely everybody. I mean, it's wonderful to see a president that actually works for the American people rather than working for themselves. And I want to segue into something. There's actually somebody else that's going to be doing that too soon, James. And that is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He has officially announced that he is running for the U.S. Senate. He's challenging John Cornyn, who is, I think he's the guy that he either won or ran for the majority leader in the Senate or whatever it is. I don't know. There's so many, there's two different Johns and they're both rhinos. So it doesn't, I don't know who's who.
Yeah, I think he ran for a majority leader, and then Thune ended up winning. So.
Thune won. Okay. Yeah. They're like carbon copies of each other. So,
right.
I don't know who's who, but Ken Paxton, imagine Ken Paxton being in the Senate and being the majority leader, and then Donald Trump being the president, and then we have a new speaker. I think we should get a new speaker. But anyways, Ken Paxton is the kind of person that you want, just like he's another Donald Trump. He fights for America, and it's great to see Americans standing up and actually running. I mean, there's someone, I forget who it is going to run against Jasmine Crockett coming up. And have you seen the insane things? The Democrat Party actually says that AOC and Jasmine Crockett and them are the leaders of the party. They're actually they're wanting for some reason to head in that direction, where these people are the leaders of the Democratic Party. And I say to them, why would you want to do that when you're at the lowest approval rating ever? And it's because of people like this. It's because of the progressive wing of the Democrat Party that's led them to these insane theories like, men can get pregnant, and men belong in women's locker rooms and sports and all these other, just unbelievable things. James, why would you, let's say you're a Democrat leader, James, what are some good qualities that you would want from Jasmine Crockett, AOC, to be the leader of your party?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any good qualities. Look, and you're right to mention these Republican. I think we need to come up with a new word, because it's really not rhinos, Republican in name only. There's so much worse than that. Look, Jack, it ties into what we were talking about at the beginning. Have you ever asked yourself, and I'm moving away from your question a little bit, but I'll do the weave and get back to it. Have you ever asked yourself how the Democrats were able to go from being, or why they went from being the party that represents the workers, the blue collar people, and now they're the party that represents the billionaires? It's all about globalism and the China connection. I really think everything runs through China. Companies have made so much money, Jack, trillions and trillions, by partnering with China, by them opening their market. And, the other thing I didn't mention, that's probably the worst thing, China. First of all, if you're a U.S. company You can't, and China steals your intellectual property, which they insist. If you're Apple and build a plant, you have to share your IP, your intellectual property with them. Then you have no recourse. So what happens to thousands of American businesses? They come up with a great product. China opens their market to them. Some company in China steals the product, begins selling it on Alibaba, and you have no recourse. And that American company goes out of business. So, the qualities you were asking for these Democrat leaders would be to represent the workers. I mean, that's what they were. The Democrat Party was intended to be. They were for labor and the struggle. The problem is, just like communism, they took this Marxist ideology that always leads to these leaders in the party enriching themselves at the expense of everybody else in the country. And we've seen that, Jack. Look what you remember Ross Perot and the giant sucking sound of manufacturing jobs leaving the country. If you opened up, there's these free market people are full of it because the markets aren't free, Jack. If there were no trade restrictions, there were no theft of intellectual property, if there was recourse in the judicial system, and then there were no tariffs, that'd be fine. But even if they have a 0% tariff, they put on and value-added taxes, all these other things. But on a positive note, Jack, 70 countries have come to negotiate new trade deals with Trump. So we are on the right track.
You're right. We are on the right track, and we're also on the right track when it comes to election integrity. It's funny because I guess Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, she was supposed to have some kind of private meeting with Donald Trump. She thought she was going to have this private meeting where, none of the Democrat leaders would find out about it. Well, what he did was he set it up for her to come into the Oval Office while he was signing executive orders on election fraud, and all the cameras were there. They took pictures of her. She was hiding her face with a blue notebook, right? Which is even more embarrassing because we know who you are. And
Wow.
he actually set it up. I mean, it was the ultimate troll, James. She came in, there were cameras on her. He was signing executive orders on election fraud because we know Michigan is one of the biggest, election voter integrity, the opposite of voter integrity states in the entire country. So I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Not just that, James, but the House actually voted to pass the SAVE Act. The House passed the SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship for voter registration, and it also directs all states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls, as long as we can get the Senate to pass it. And that's going to be the hard part. The House did pass it. Now it just goes to the Senate. If the Senate passes it, it will become law because we both know Donald Trump will sign it. So it's all up to the Senate to pass the SAVE Act. And this is what we've all been working for. If you want election integrity, at least in the federal elections, in state elections, it's going to be more difficult because it's up to each individual state. But if you want a president that isn't bought and paid for by China, if you want a president that isn't, that actually, was born in America, you need the SAVE Act. So that way they don't import millions more. I mean, look at this. You know how you said China was buying and paying for our politicians and all this? Well, over 100,000 Chinese nationals came into America illegally last year, and they were intended to vote in China's favor for China. But if we can pass this through the Senate, they will no longer be able to do that. I guarantee you, if this passes through the Senate, it will end our border problems overnight. There will be no reason to pay for these people to come over the border. There will be no reason to spend billions of dollars for these people, George Soros and the like, to come over our border because they won't be able to vote. So it will not matter. And proof of citizenship to register to vote is one thing, but I also think you should have proof of citizenship right before you vote. Because let's say somebody, let's say they can fake a proof of citizenship, to register to vote. But you have to have like a real ID, like one of those real IDs that by the way, DHS secretary said we're all going to have to fly starting in May. People that are pissed off about that, by the way, it's just a little sidebar. People that are pissed off about that, by the way, that's been in the works for 5 to 10 years. You've known about this for 5 to 10 years. They've told everybody about this for 5 to 10 years. So there's no reason to be pissed off about it. The only reason I'd be pissed off about that is they're forcing you to do that while they let illegals fly for free without an ID. But as far as the SAVE Act goes, James, it's a great first step, but we have to get the Senate to pass it. What do you think are the odds of that happening?
0. It's not going to happen. For this reason, they have to have 60 votes in order to overcome a filibuster. It's not a simple majority vote. And that means they have to have some Democrats come on board. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it's horrible to say, but look, I mean, every single Democrat senator just voted to keep allowing men and women's sports. You think they're going to require voter ID? No, it's not going to pass, and it pisses me off, Jack. It's really, really frustrating. I mean, the problem is you and I both know this, Jack. There shouldn't even be a close majority. It should be 75-25%. 75% of Republican senators, 25% Democrat, but they cheat so well. Look at that last Georgia Senate election right after the 2020 election. And those two Democrats got in from Georgia. Come on, bro. I know Georgia's a red state through and through. They cheat like nobody's business, and it's just incredibly frustrating. That.
I mean, you're absolutely right. They're still pulling the old, big ballot harvesting and stuffing thing that is supposed to be illegal by now. And you saw where I think it was the Democrat in Georgia that won by like 400 and something votes. But I will say that I believe a federal judge just ruled that, or at least made it possible for that thing to be overturned, because I think what they're going to do is rule out the people that were never residents of the United States, the people that voted overseas. If they can just rule out some of those ballots, then the Republican will win. But it's the same kind of thing that happened in Wisconsin. You know, Brad Schimmel lost. But he lost because you could see. Did you know that they did that thing just like they did in the 2020 election? They covered up the windows. They made sure that Republicans were not allowed inside. What I don't understand is, in order for this to happen, police have to stand by and do nothing. But two, for horrible laws to be enforced, the police have to enforce them. And I understand people say, oh, these people are just following orders. But what goes through your mind when you enforce a law that A, you know is illegal, and B, you know they would enforce on you in a heartbeat if they need to? I mean, I just don't understand what goes on in these people's minds. But it's just like the whole following orders thing doesn't track, just like the whole Nuremberg trial. They said those people were just following orders, but it doesn't track. It wasn't allowed as an excuse then, just like ignorance of the law is not allowed as an excuse. There are no excuses for the actions that you take. And I want to do a quick segue here into the things that we've been talking about lately, and the things that that has been upsetting the most of us. And that's, the inaction of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and them, the promotion of Stephen Jensen. But I do want to say that at least there is one person in the Trump administration that is doing what they are supposed to be doing. And I will tell you, that is Tulsi Gabbard. Okay? The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, revealed that she has a team searching FBI and CIA warehouses for hidden JFK documents and anything else they can find, because they know that the FBI, they know that the CIA and the DOJ are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They know the heads of those organizations, while we believe them to be on our side, have not been as aggressive as they should be. And, but she is still going to be as aggressive, because she's felt what it's like to be on the Democrat side, and she's felt to what it's to be like on the injustice side, on the Republicans, and she wants justice for everybody that's not getting it. And I think Tulsi Gabbard realizes what many other Republican politicians don't seem to. Republicans are motivated by justice. Democrats are motivated by hate and anger. So if you want to win the midterms, you've got to give us some kind of justice. If you don't, why would we vote in the midterms if we're not getting any justice? That's what we're motivated by. The Democrats are going to vote regardless. They are motivated by hate and anger. That will get you to the polls. We are motivated by justice, which we are getting none of. But at least DNI Tulsi Gabbard is trying to make that a possibility. What do you think, James?
I think that's a really, really good point. I've never thought of it like that. I haven't heard it phrased that way, that we're motivated by justice. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you and I pound the table in this show about the two-tiered justice system. It's so frustrating. Now, having said that, I have really tried to analyze what's going on with the Department of Justice, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Tulsi, the whole intelligence community under Trump. And I did want to say, Jack, that I'm going to give them some more grace for this reason. We all said release the Epstein documents. Now people just use that as a phrase. They didn't really think that through. What documents do you mean? And you and I have talked about it. There's thousands of hours of videotape. So let's say, for instance, that a Democrat senator is filmed having sex with an underage girl or boy, for that matter. They can't just release that. What do they have to do? They have to build a case. And building a case, if you've watched any crime show, if you read the news, it takes time. And Bongino, I think if you followed his tweets, and I know you have, Jack, he's projecting this. He keeps saying, look, we are doing the work. It takes time. He goes, I know it's stupid to ask you to trust me, but I'm asking you to trust me. And I was I wouldn't say 100% loyal listener to his show, but I listened to about 70% of his shows. And I mean, he went deep on this stuff. He is invested in getting to the truth. I really think you're going to see some prosecutions. You're going to see some justice. But in order to get that, they have to build a case. They can't just release the information to the public, go, see, there's your justice. No, that's not justice, because then those people will never get charged. I think they're building criminal cases. So let's be a little patient. That's my thought.
The problem with that, and I understand the case building part, but I think they should at least release the names of clients, people that that they know based on documents, interviews, whatever, visited this island. I mean, it's pretty bad when the DOJ has to be sued to release these kinds of things. Judicial Watch is suing the DOJ for records regarding Jeffrey Epstein, including records of the identity of clients or associates of Epstein. Now, they could release these things. They could release client names, and they could release associates of Epstein. That's not, I mean, if they're there, if they're clients and they're associates, that's their own fault. They should be able to release these things. These things should be, but James, the biggest thing is they said they were going to. That's the problem. Don't say you're going to and then don't. Don't say there's a truckload of Epstein files that just came here, which was about, I think, 40 some odd days ago now. We haven't heard a peep since. Don't say I'm releasing the files, give us a phase 1 binder, and then nothing. I would rather them just say, we're building, this is what they should have said. We're building a case. We have the documents. We're analyzing the documents. We're building a case. We will release everything soon enough, but we have to let the justice system play itself out. We have to let it play out. But instead they said, we're going to release this, we're going to release it on day one. And that was their mistake, I think, for everybody. And while it's true, they do need to build the case. They do need to, let it play out. They should have said it. They should have just said that, If you're going to talk to the American people, especially Republicans, conservatives, you got to be real. You got to be 100% forthright and honest, like you and I are. We just come out and we speak from the heart. We talk real talk. And that's what they should have done from the beginning, instead of promising things they know they were not going to be able to keep.
I mean, I agree 100%. And I think we can lay the blame squarely on the shoulders of Attorney General Pam Bondi. She, in her enthusiasm, kind of cheerleading little style, said, we're going to do da-da-da-da. And I think sober people in the administration reined her in and said, look, and I'm playing devil's advocate. If they say we're building a case against clients of Jeffrey Epstein or associates of Jeffrey Epstein, what are those people going to do? They're going to flee the country. They're going to hide their money. I mean, they don't want to tip their hat. I mean, Donald Trump has been probably the best president ever of not showing his cards. He doesn't tell the enemy what they're going to do. And I think that's what's going on at FBI. I really believe that. If you look at, and I've done a lot of this, go back and watch interviews with Kash Patel. I mean, Kash Patel wrote the book Government Gangsters. Jack, it was all about the Russia collusion hoax. He was right there with, when all of the Russia stuff was going on, the Devon memo. I'm losing my mind. Congressman Devon
Nunes.
Yes, thank you. The Nunes memo. He wrote it. Kash Patel wrote it. There is a serious, and Tulsi has alluded to that as well. that whole thing, just think about this, Jack. They've got to get to the bottom of that. Who was the architect behind that? Where did the money come from? How did it flow? What FBI agents were involved? There's an investigation going on into January 6th. We know that. What FBI assets were deployed? who who ordered certain things to happen on that day at the Capitol? There's investigations going on into the impeachments. Now we're talking about what Doge has been uncovering, and they've still left us on a cliff with that. And I want to get your thoughts on that, where Trump and I think Carolyn Levitt and Elon Musk have said there's a huge announcement coming. We found something huge. People are alluding to the fact that a lot of taxpayer money has been going directly into Democrat pockets and probably Rhino uniparty pockets as well. I think criminal investigations are going on, and I think those just take time. I mean, even if you get a DNA hit, it can take months to get the proper lab work and the series of papers and chain of evidence to make sure that it's locked down airtight. I don't think they want to tip their hand. Now, I could be totally wrong, Jack. It could all be a smokescreen, but for now, I just want to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's just me, though.
No, I completely understand. And I think it's because everything that's happened to us over the last 4 years, and by us, I mean Trump and his supporters, everything that's happened to us over the last 4 years, we want immediate justice. Everything that we've seen all the evidence of every single thing that they've done, so that's why we want immediate justice. And I can understand that it can take time because they just got into power. They've got to put it all together. They've got to gather witnesses and so on and so forth. And, it is going to take time. And, that's so I can completely understand that. One thing I want to say about Donald Trump, he is a just a master at trolling. Remember how I told you about the Gretchen Whitmer thing, right? How he trolled her, with the whole executive order and election fraud. Now, people are going to say that he came back and spoke to this woman. And by this woman, I mean Cheryl Hines. Did you see what happened at UFC 314 last night? It was hilarious. What happened was, okay, so Donald Trump comes in and he goes around, he starts shaking everybody's hand, right? So he gets up to RFK Jr. and his wife is actress Cheryl Hines, who is a big time liberal and, an opponent of Donald Trump, if you will. So he shakes RFK Jr.'s hand, talks to him in his ear. Cheryl Hines, and it's funny because let's say, okay, so Donald Trump, RFK Jr. is on his right, Cheryl Hines is to the right of RFK Jr. So Donald Trump turns to his right, shakes RFK Jr.'s hand, whispers something in his ear, immediately looks to the far left, to where he can't see Cheryl because he knows Cheryl's going to try to shake his hand. So he passes her. Her hand hits his shoulder. She's got his hand out to shake it. It hits his shoulder. He keeps on walking. And it is hilarious. And the look on her face, she's like, what just happened? Now, people are going to say, and they're going to show photos of him going back over there to, just to shake her hand or whatever. But I think he did that on purpose because of who he saw her when he shook RFK Jr.'s hand. He knew what the deal was, and it was awesome because he's a master at trolling. But he still went back over there to kind of smooth things over with RFK Jr. But he did exactly what he wanted to do. What do you think, James?
Yeah, it might. I think
Did you see it? Oh man, it was awesome.
No, I didn't see it. I saw his entrance. I missed that part. I'll have to go back and watch it. But did you listen to the Bill Maher episode where he talked about his dinner with Trump? Have you listened to
I just heard part of it.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because basically Maher says the guy that he met in the White House that night is completely different than the guy that is, portrayed on TV. Now, he's absolutely right. Some of that is that Trump, when he's publicly speaking or when he's addressing the media, does take on a little bit of a different persona. But the thing is, he's always honest and genuine. That is, people don't see that. And that's why I kind of wonder if he really did that, because I don't think he's that kind of man that would not shake a woman's hand just because she said some bad things about him. That isn't the Donald Trump. I don't think he's that kind of guy.
Well, see, you can be a good person and still troll people. That's why he's a good person. That's why he came back and shook her hand afterwards. But he's still a human being. That's why he trolled her. So I think it was the best of both worlds, personally. I think it was the awesome troll and then the comeback to say, I'm sorry, let me shake your hand. So I just thought it was awesome in general. I've seen him do that to many people. And and just knowing Trump, and the thing is with Bill Maher, he's exactly right. I mean, Trump, the way they portray Trump, that see, he probably only watches CNN, MSNBC, and the like. So all he sees are parts where they cut off Trump's speeches, where it looked like Trump's saying something horrible because they cut out the context. So he sees a person that he doesn't like because of media coverage.
It's the very fine people.
Exactly. And that's 90% of the liberals out there. All they see is what's on the media. All they see is what the media wants them to see. So they hate a man that they have no idea who he is. So he goes to meet Donald Trump at the White House, finds out how great Donald Trump really is. Then he has to give Donald Trump his props on national television, James. And that's what I think 90% of the liberals out there would do if they met Donald Trump, the person.
Yeah, and you and I know, and I'm particularly well versed on this for this reason. My life partner, girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, we're not getting married, so we've been together 15 years.
Does she know this?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's weird. We were both married almost 30 years. I don't want to share too much personal information, but we both got divorced, and we just, you know what? We like our separate lives. It's great. We both have our own crib. You know, we don't live together, but I love her more than anything. She's an amazing person.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you can follow her if you check out my account. She's on there. But anyway, she was a huge fan of Donald Trump way back when. The Apprentice was her favorite show. Mm-hmm. She would tell, before he announced in 2015, she used to tell me these stories about these random acts of kindness he's done. Now, he's done thousands upon thousands of them. Only a few of them are even known about. You know, the one that comes to mind is him driving down a road and his limo had some mechanical problems, had to pull over, and some guy pulled over and assisted them. Like a week later, the man found out that his mortgage had been paid off on his house. Donald Trump did that. But he does that for people all the time. He's used his private plane to fly sick children of all colors, I might mention, racist, you know, to hospitals and paid for their treatment. He does this all the time. That's who he is. He's also a tough SOB, Jack. And that's where the tariffs, you know, the whole tariff thing is a strategy. He wrote the effing art of the deal. These people are so moronic. Like, oh my God, he's tearing down the cut. No, he's a businessman. He's negotiating. The great thing is, Jack, he's negotiating on behalf of you and me. He's not negotiating on the behalf of special interests. Wall Street, K Street, the big banks, the globalists, the military-industrial complex, he's not negotiating in their favor. And every other administration going back to JFK, or after him, I should say, going back to Johnson, has been at the behest of these big megalith corporations and societal institutions. And Trump embraces us, the citizens, and it's genuine, Jack. And you can feel that. Go watch any Democrat or even most Republicans speak. You know, go watch Jeb Bush give a speech. Do you feel like it's coming from the heart, that it's real, that it's sincere, that it's honest? People can tell when someone's sincere. And I think, honestly, if we could break down Trump's greatest attribute, Jack, he's just genuine. He's sincere. He's honest. The one thing that they call him the most is a liar. He's the exact opposite. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. And that is why everybody wanted to vote for him in the first place. I know anybody watching this, including myself and probably you too, wanted to vote for him because A, he was a businessman. Our economy was in the toilet. He can help get us out. I mean, he has made fortunes. He knows how to do business. And B, he was not a politician. He was not somebody that was already part of the swamp. And C, it's because he was already rich. He doesn't need to get rich. Okay? Everybody that becomes a politician these days does not do it for the correct reasons. They do it because it's easy to steal taxpayer money. You use that taxpayer money for insider trading and you become rich as you can possibly imagine. Donald Trump's already a billionaire. He doesn't even take a salary. And let me tell you why I say that they can easily become rich, okay? Something recently happened, and it was just found out that Jasmine Crockett may end up being expelled from Congress. And I say may because we both know it won't happen. But they're supposedly going to investigate that somehow someone, quote, someone, donated to Jasmine Crockett's campaign over 50 times to the tune of $870,000, James. And this has happened many times.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
There was someone they found through Act Blue, which we all know is a fraudulent corporation used to funnel taxpayer money back to the Democrats' campaigns.
Right.
A single person, a single social security number was used to donate to her campaign 50 times to the tune of $870,000 total dollars. And that is just one, as opposed to millions of times it's happened to many Democrats all over the country. And you know how they not only do they funnel that money through NGOs, but they also pay their family for consulting services, or pay their brother to be a bodyguard, pay him $1 million to be a bodyguard for a week, because they can't pay themselves. So they pay it to him and they split it. That is how they are stealing your money. And right now, Jasmine Crockett was caught because Act Blue is under investigation based on the whole FTX Sam Bankman-Fried thing, and based on all the other things like all the USAID thing. They're all under investigation. And Jasmine Crockett, the quote leader of the Democrat Party, has just been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. And even though I pray that something comes of this, I don't believe it will. I just hope that Americans can smarten up. Because see, we keep saying that, okay, it's American voter, they deserve what they get. California, they voted for these people, so they deserve what they get. Maybe they aren't voting for these people. Maybe they don't deserve what they get. Maybe it's just a loud minority that's saying stuff, but yet then all the illegals are voting for these people. Did you know that a poll just came out that said 50, and this is true poll, 50% of registered voters in California would vote for a Republican governor today, James?
Wow. No, I have no doubt. I think the numbers have been screwed up for a long time. I don't believe that 50% of the nation hates what Doge is doing. I just don't believe. I think a lot of it goes into, Jack, how a poll is phrased, a question, I should say, is phrased in a poll. I mean, they might say, do you want the billionaire Elon Musk looking into your Social Security account? Well, of course, 80% of people are going to say no. But if you phrased it like, do you want someone with high integrity to make sure that there's no fraud in the Social Security system? 90% are going to say yes. So these polls are easily manipulated. And I think we've been look, we talked about it. We can go back to pre-Operation Mockingbird, the CIA, the intelligence. And this is something that people need to realize. We saw how easy the Biden administration weaponized the DOJ, CIA, the intelligence community. He didn't have anything to do with it. It had already been weaponized for decades, Jack. Well, yes, we fired a bunch of people in the FBI, in the DNI, et cetera, but there are still thousands of dark hearts working in the American and Western intelligence community. It's going to take time to root them all out. And I really think that's why you're not seeing this rush to judgment or you're not seeing arrests. I think before, and I think you make a good point about the midterms. They really don't have 4 years, Jack. You're right. They have 18 months because they've got to get this done before the midterms. I predict on the show, mark it down, whatever today is, the 14th, I think, 13th, something like that. 13th. So Sunday the 13th, I predict that you will see arrests 2 months before the midterm election. Arrest of political figures.
Well, I hope you're right. That would be amazing. But it's funny because these same political figures, and I hope they are arrested, not just for crimes that they've committed, but also because they are dividing the nation like we've never been divided before. The victim mentality is out of control. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The stabbing, Carmelo Anthony stabbed, and killed Austin Metcalf at the high school track meet. Well, let me show you what the victim mentality has done. Okay, Carmelo Anthony's GoFundMe. By the way, GoFundMe allows, a black stabbing, a black perpetrator that stabbed and killed somebody to create a GoFundMe, but will not allow a white person to do the same thing. However, they actually raised Carmelo Anthony, the perpetrator that stabbed Austin Metcalf, actually has raised over $250,000 $250,000, whereas the stabbing victim's family, this guy is dead. He was a white high school student, is dead, has not even raised half that. Okay? And every single black person I have seen, and this has got nothing to do with black people in general, it's got to do with the victim mentality that has been forced on people by the media. Well, not every single, but a lot of the black people I have seen on X are saying, oh, the white kid had it coming. That's what I call reparations. Or, oh, white, who cares? Who cares he was white? Or, whatever it was. And that's because these people have bought into, and it's not just black people, there's white people. The white liberals have the victim mentality, And these people have bought into the fact that, hey, I'm a victim. I am owed something by this country. And that is a huge problem when a perpetrator of a murder of a high school student, who was the aggressor, by the way, he sat in a place where he knew he was going to, first of all, he brought a knife to a track meet. Right there, you're looking for trouble. He brought a knife. Who brings a knife to a high school track meet? Then he goes and sits under the other track team's tent. He's asked to leave. He gets up and leaves. He comes back with a book bag, his hand in the book bag with a knife. Austin Metcalf gets up, says you need to leave, touches his arm. Dude pulls out a knife, stabs him in the chest. That man that stabbed him in the chest raised double the money that the man who died did. What do you think about that, James?
Well, it's absolutely disgusting, but I want to say, you're right. A percentage of the black community, probably a majority, I would say, but I think it's a slim majority, if a majority. But
yeah, not every. I mean, this is just an X thing.
Well, I was looking on, I actually looked it up on X. I'm looking at Rob Smith. Now, Rob Smith is a black man. He's an Iraqi vet. He went to Columbia. He's a political analyst, but he's also a member of TPUSA, Charlie Kirk's award. And he said, I'm going to quote him, he said, blacks are last in net worth, income, and education in American society, yet we fundraise for a 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony who murdered another teen. Fundraising for a black killer and the lack of accountability culture in the black community is the problem. And he's so right. And Jack, it's ignorance. It is total ignorance. But there's a part of me that doesn't even blame these people, because the whole media landscape going back to, post MLK's assassination has been this idea that the victim versus oppressor. We've talked about it ad nauseum in postmodernism, the Frankfurt School, and, cultural Marxism, which is what this is. It pits the victim versus the oppressor. So if you're raised like that, and every school day you go to, you're taught as a white person that you should feel guilty and that you owe this other culture. Jack, I consider myself pretty well educated, particularly on issues of race, because my mother got a PhD in African American history. I read all the books she read, et cetera, et cetera. But there are parts of me, if I were to be super honest about my heart, I read the book 100 Years of Lynchings, which is the most horrific graphic descriptions of what happened to black people in the Jim Crow South and North, for that matter. But, so I do have a tinge of white guilt. Now, I've generally gotten over it, but all I'm trying to say is I understand. It's just so freaking sad, Jack. We have to get back to normalcy. And the good news is that there are people like the Hodge twins, like this Rob Smith, like Candace Owens, really influential, smart black people. Thomas Sowell, probably the smartest man in America, who are speaking out on this, Jack. And hopefully the tide's turning, bro. But you're right. The whole idea that we would raise money for a killer like that just makes me sad more than anything, man.
It's true. And then, another thing is, I know you've seen the whole Harry Sisson thing, right? How he I guess he got women to send him nude photographs and do all kinds of stuff over the phone or whatever it is, and maybe he traded a little bit on his celebrity to do that. But this also goes to the fact where not only do we have the victim mentality, but then we have the wolf pack mentality, where we treated him just like the Democrats would treat us. I mean, this man, Harry Sisson, did the same thing that probably every adolescent male in their life has tried to do, get women to send them naked pictures over the phone. I mean, who hasn't tried to do that as an adolescent male? He's a young male, and now I see. No, not you, James. Definitely not you. But yeah, I wasn't talking about
Thank
you.
God I was around before cell phone.
I know, right? Because that shit's permanent. When they send that to you, that's so that's why you want to make sure you don't send stuff to people. But yeah. So now I still see, and this happened, like a month or two ago that this was exposed. But now I still see. I was just looking on X now, and I see a picture of Harry Sisson with tits. Just big honking hooters, and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on here? And I see, where people are demonizing this kid for liking women, and for the thing is, everybody thought this guy was gay before this. They were demonizing him for being gay. Now they're demonizing him for being an adolescent male that likes women. And I gotta say, from our side, why are we doing this? I mean, there's more important things. And honestly, every male on our side, now maybe not the left, because the left, they usually are, a little mentally ill. They're weak. They're what do you call them? They're metrosexual. So they probably don't do this kind of thing. But and you're on mute, by the way, James.
Metrosexual, right?
Yeah, they're metro, so they don't probably do this kind of thing because they don't have testosterone pumping through their veins. Maybe some of the the women in sports might, some of those transgender women might have the testosterone. But as far as we go, I'm sure every conservative male has tried to play some kind of game over the phone, try to get send nude pictures back and forth. That's just what happens when you're an adolescent, because you got sex hormones pumping through the brain. People forget that this is a young guy, but yet we're demonizing and wanting to cancel a man for doing these things. And yes, I hate Harry Sisson. Don't get me wrong. I don't like him any more than I like, Joe Biden. But, to cancel a person's life, we're not the left. We don't cancel him for things that don't matter. This does now, even if he lied to the women to get them to send them naked stuff, that's not a crime. And it's something that, men do. They lie to women to get laid all the time, And as long as these women are not underage, and as long as he's not doing something that's a crime, I mean, we can't really demonize a man for being a man. Then what you're doing is you're saying we don't want men in America anymore. That's what you're saying here, James. What is your thoughts on everything? And I understand we're looking for someone to pounce on because they have done it to us for so long that we've been looking for someone to pounce on. We hate Harry Sisson, so we pounced on the first thing we could find. But we do not need to die on this hill. What do you think, James?
You know what, Jack? Very astute observation. I hadn't given it any thought, but I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, why do we waste time on demonizing other people? There's some, people just have too much time on their hands. I mean, look, I've done it on X. I've gone on.
Oh, yeah, but for things that matter.
Right. Yeah, but I've attacked people because they're morons,
Well, that's different, yeah.
I used to, that even calling someone a moron would get your account suspended back in the pre-Elon Twitter.
In the UK, it'll get you arrested now.
Yeah. It's just
insane.
And Germany. Really, well, man, we've only got a few minutes left. What other, there's so much stuff in the news. I know you saw the news about the Trump assassination guy was trying to buy Stinger missiles from Ukraine. That's just came out. That Joe Kent. Now, I don't know if you saw Joe Kent. I've been trying to find it. What is he being confirmed for? It's a very high position. Oh, I think it's counterterrorism chief, something like that. You remember Joe Kent? He ran for Congress. I think, was it Washington? Really, really good dude. He's the guy who lost his wife in the Iraq War. Mm-hmm. Joe Kent is promising to expose the whole Fedsurrection. So I think he's been nominated specifically to, the J6 investigation and the whole committee and the way they deleted everything and the pipe bomber. Jack, we have to get to the bottom of that. And I think if anything is going to happen before the midterms, and I said you're going to see arrests, but I think the whole J6 narrative, this is my opinion. I think the two top things that the Trump intelligence good guys are looking at are the whole J6 thing and how it ties to the stolen election. And if we can get the truth out that they actually did steal the 2020 election, that we have hard facts, people are arrested, and there have been some arrests locally, by the way. And then the J6 thing, because we know it was a Fedsurrection. We know it was orchestrated by the Capitol Police, the FBI, Nancy Pelosi, et cetera, et cetera. It was a false flag event. and then the lawfare used against the J6ers. I think those are the two top things that you're going to see exposed. What do you think?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And before we end, though, I do want to say on a positive note, I think the pronoun BS is finally dying. Okay, I think it's finally dying because there's been recent rulings that say you can't punish someone for that it can't be a hate crime just for misgendering. Now there are laws where they're trying to pass in certain states where misgendering someone is a crime, but Montana lawmakers just passed a bill that blocks schools from punishing students who refuse to use preferred names or pronouns. You are not anymore forced to use somebody's preferred pronouns. If that person is a transgender male, you can call them a female. You could say she. If that person, his name was born Jack and now it's Jill, you can call them Jack and not get punished for it. That is now a law in Montana, at least, and I think it's going to start sweeping the nation because even Elon Musk tweeted out that the pronoun silliness is done, and I believe it is. I believe cancel culture is going away, and that's why I wanted to bring up that whole thing with Harry Sisson, because cancel culture in general needs to go away. We don't want to cancel anybody. We don't want them canceling us. Speak with your wallet. Don't buy shit if you don't like it. Don't watch something if you don't need to hurt somebody's career. But I mean, somebody has to start these things. If they're not going to start with the ending of cancel culture, we need to start with it. Otherwise, it'll never happen. So, I think cancel culture is dying. I think DEI is dying. We've seen what's been going on. And by the way, I have to say something about the helicopter crash. And you saw the whole helicopter crash thing where, it was a black Navy pilot. It was a Navy SEAL who was flying this helicopter. And some people were saying that he was a DEI hire. And now, while I say that under the Biden administration, nothing was safe from DEI, I highly doubt that, there's a DEI Navy SEAL. But let's say that there was, for some odd reason, there was a DEI Navy SEAL. I also highly doubt DEI had anything to do with that helicopter falling apart in midair. If you watch the video, there is actually somebody that videotaped this entire thing. Why? And that's another thing that strikes me as odd. Somebody randomly videotaping a helicopter, then all of a sudden it starts falling apart. But you see the propeller come off. You see the rotor come off. You see it start flipping, up and, start circling all the way down and splash in after the helicopter has already hit the ground, already hit the water, and 6 people die. You can see it falling apart.
Let me ask you something real quick on this.
Mm-hmm.
I also saw a picture of the family taken in front of the helicopter right before the flight, supposedly. I don't know this to be true. And it was a white helicopter with black stripes. The helicopter they pulled out of the river was completely black.
Really? That's interesting. I'll have to do some research into that because no, I did not know that. All I saw was the picture of where these people were in the helicopter right before the flight. I didn't notice.
Gotcha.
I didn't notice the white stripe, so I'm gonna have to look into that. And we'll, if we find something into that, we'll definitely have it for you on the next episode. But I just find it weird how all these plane crashes and things are happening. They happened before. They always happen. But all of a sudden, you got shit that's falling apart. A helicopter falling apart in midair. I'm not talking, one piece falls off. It looked like every piece of that helicopter was falling apart. If you watch the video, you see the rotor, you see the blades, you see everything kind of come apart as the belly of the helicopter goes straight down into the water. And that kind of thing is shocking for one thing, because things don't just fall apart like that, James. I just wonder that, plus remember the whole military helicopter Black Hawk that hit that plane that killed all those children. I just wonder what is going on here when it comes to both military and seemingly helicopters all of a sudden. It seems like all these things are happening around the same time, and it's such a strange, quote, coincidence. And my theory is too many coincidences equal a conspiracy. So we're going to do some more digging into this, and we will have it for you on the next episode.
Yeah, it's just like, remember when all those food production facilities were catching on fire all over the country at the same time? There are these weird trends and events, and
all the train wrecks that were releasing all the chemicals at the same time.
Yes,
remember that?
Yes. And there's always some reason behind them. I had somebody call me a conspiracy theorist the other. No, I know what it was. Chat GPT called Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist, and I challenged it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a real person, James, even though it talks to me like it is. And it actually kind of said, you're right. I shouldn't do. So anyway, it's crazy. Well, Jack, this has been our first live episode, man. How do you think? What do you think? What do you thought?
I think it went very well. I hope the listeners enjoyed it, and it will get better as we go along. With this being our first episode, next episode, we're going to have some more exciting content, and we're going to have, we'll be able to share videos of the content too. Since it's live, everybody can watch it. We can show you videos and photos of exactly the things that we're talking about, so you can follow along with us. And it's going to get better and better. I mean, I love it. I like being live. I like the fact that people can watch it as it's happening. So, it's really exciting for me. How do you think it went?
Yeah, I think it's great because, like I said at the beginning, we do a live show anyway, but some other things that you will see in the future. Eventually, you will be able to contact us live, whether it's through phone or via text or via DM. And we've got some exciting guests we're working on. Jack's got one that will just blow the roof off this deal, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And I've got a couple, so I think it's time to have some more guests on. We haven't made a conscious decision not to. We just haven't actively gone after it. So we will be having guests on, right, Jack?
That's absolutely right. And you're right. The guests that we're going to have on are going to be amazing. And it's the one guest that you're talking about is someone that nobody would imagine. I mean, it's somebody that is really huge, especially in our circles. So it's going to be awesome.
I told my girlfriend potentially about it, and she did the OMFG. She absolutely loves that person. Well, we'll leave it at that, bro. I am James Clary. He's Jack Danger. You've been listening to Secret America. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Secret America with Jack Danger and James Clary.